We are at Shanghai International Circuit in China for round 11 of the 2014 GT Asia Series. Only 3 races to go, round 11 and round 12, 2 40-minute races here at Shanghai International. Of course, a Herman Tilke built circuit. This rotation, 4.59 kilometres, shortened this weekend over the full Formula 1 length, which is about 5.6 kilometres. A couple of turns taken out after turn 4. So just 12 turns, not the usual 16, although they carry the numbers over the course of this weekend. So if we confuse you too much, we apologise for that. But as we see on the front row, leading this field is the Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, BBT Ferrari, the yellow and red car, holding the front of the field at bay, and that's Richard Lyons alongside in the Craft Bamboo Racing Aston Martin Vantage, coming to the line for the start of this 40-minute race. Of course, compulsory pit stop, part of the 2014 GT Asia Series. We've got to start. Notice a little bit further back there, a nice squeeze by Jean-Carl Vernet in the Bentley, making its debut run here. 3 wide into turn 1. Frank Yu just backs out of it, gives Anthony Liu the run into turn 1. Of course, that was Richard Lyons just getting out of it. And that's Vernet. That's amazing. He's worked his way through. By turn 2, he's come from 7th to the lead. That's Lyons and Christopher Mees going down the gravel through turn 3. That's not the ideal way to get themselves through this pack. So it's Vernet, then it's Liu, then it's Roy Guas, the teammate, of course, the BBT second car from Spirit of Race, and that's Christopher Mees has thrown himself off the circuit. He's got an issue there. There's a tyre rubbing, so there's been contact in that run to the start, which was pretty hectic. The number 66 Porsche GT3R, of course, of Dashing Zheng, who's a regular in the Carrera Cup Asia Series. He's been doing a great run this weekend. He's been in the top 3 for much of the time through practice and into qualifying. Of course, during qualifying, he set the 3rd fastest time, but it's Guas now who's in front of Lyons. That's running tail gunner, of course, for his teammate, the BBT Ferrari 458 of Anthony Liu, the yellow and red car in 2nd position there. Vernet's really put the power down. You see a little bit of damage to the number 66 Porsche rather, as Vernet just works to get a little bit of temperature into the tyres. It's an unusual move as Max Weiser a little bit further back comes past Christopher Mees, who's struggling in the Jeffrey Lee Audi. Of course, the car that they won the round at Fuji a little bit earlier in the year. Of course, that was round 6 in the championship, but in the rain. Brilliant drive by the young German, who's been very helpful in Audi's efforts this year to win a multitude of championships rather. But it's Vernet crossing the line, well clear now of Anthony Liu. Roy Guas running tail gunner for his teammate there in position 3, the number 38 silver Spirit of Race Ferrari 458. Behind them, of course, it's Richard Lyons, a very wide line by Zheng into turn 1. Perhaps the damage he's got in the right front of the car has impacted the dive planes on that corner and given him a little bit of understeer, so he's a little bit wider going through there. Max Weiser immediately behind him. Weiser and Kane Yang once again back together. In fact, Yang during his qualifying yesterday managed to take the front row start. So tomorrow's round 12, you will see that car start from the front row. But at the moment, it's Richard Lyons who's hounding the rear of Roy Guas, looking at the start. They spread out as they come to the run, but look at Vernet just working his way through. He muscled his way down the inside of Max Weiser, and then of course you had Lyons moved across, may have just made contact. It was the Porsche. It would be the Porsche and Christopher Mees made contact. You see very wide Porsche through turn 1, and Vernet out of nowhere has managed to take the lead, and of course ran out of ground there for Richard Lyons and Christopher Mees. And that damage that you see, Mees just, well, there's the contact there. That was Zheng and Mees coming out of turn 4. And that's done the damage to the front of the Porsche, which you can see just coming on screen here now behind the Aston Martin. Lights flashing. Richard Lyons now keen to get past Guas, but Guas is having none of it. Been very quick during different stages of this season. Of course, at Sepang, he was particularly fast during practice and qualifying, but just hasn't had the luck this year to get himself further up the point score. Of course, shares that car with Nazrat Muzayan, the car owner. One of the local China GT cars has had a spin. 997 Porsche. It's not the ideal spot, as you see Christopher Mees rejoining, so he's got a lot of work ahead of him now because of that pit stop. I didn't want to be stopping then, of course, they had a compulsory pit stop pit stop window will open on about 15-minute mark of this race and close by the 25-minute mark of this race. So 10 minutes for every team to conduct their stop. But Anthony Lou's doing a brilliant job. In fact, he was the fastest qualifier yesterday during the qualifying session. Out-qualified his teammate, Davide Rizzo. Of course, they've been sharing all year. Surprised the GT Asia Series field as Richard Lyons has a big look around the inside there of Roy Guas. It's not going to happen this time round, but he will be keen to get past and make up for lost ground. Of course, he started on the front row of this race and alongside Frank Yu. Frank Yu certainly is in this championship chase, so Richard Lyons will be doing everything he can to get him back into contention. The leading cars in the championship's currently being led, of course, by the Bell Hamaguchi McLaren MP412C. That's in Restrada, AAI Restrada colours this weekend, the white car. See a spin there, that's an unusual spot. That's coming down to turn number 11. It's a very unusual spot to come unstuck. So might have had a drama there. One of the local China GT Cup cars. There's now Max Weiser closes in on the back of Dashen Zheng. And we will see a stop at about the 15-minute mark. Now, qualifying again saw Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu. Anthony Liu in this session, 1:47.17 set pole position. Richard Lyons followed him. He was the quickest during practice, 1:47.2. Felt that they just didn't get enough out of the car. A lot of traffic during qualifying. He led the field out, and as he came to start his first flying lap, the tail end of the field came out of pit lane, and he said, I passed 4 cars on the first lap, 5 cars on the second lap, and by then it was about game over. And certainly when Rob Bell made contact with another of the local cars, a BMW, after misjudging the braking point, to clarify that, he was catching the tail end of one of the Audis, and the Audi, to avoid the BMW, probably stopped a little bit harder, as we see quite graphically there, Verne charging hard and just avoiding the tail end of the Porsche. He jumped on the brakes pretty hard in the Audi, and that caught Bell by surprise. Bell locked the car up and was unable to get past it. Look at Roy Guas is protecting dramatically there to try and keep that position ahead of Richard Lyons. Lyons will be getting frustrated here. It's almost brought him to a stop coming through that part of the circuit. It looks like it's coming up to turn 10 and down the short straight down to turn 11. And then back around and onto that long back straight, 267 kilometres an hour by some of the Astons, the Aston Martin Vantage V12s in this race, but it's Verne up front who is still controlling this field. So it was Liu, Lyons, Dashen Zheng was third fastest in the JRM ART Porsche GT3R. Then it was Christopher Mies, Verne who qualified 5th fastest, Roy Guas was 6th, and it was Max Weiser, Kita Sawa a little bit further back than we probably expected, but again there was a lot of traffic through qualifying, which affected a number of drivers prior to the red flag, which came out about the 7-minute mark of the 10-minute session, and that was game over for those drivers who hadn't recorded a fast time. You can see on screen there Matt Griffin, of course a favourite with the Clearwater Racing team, being hounded by Kita Sawa. Sawa keen to get past the Irishman and get himself further up the field. Of course, he's right in this championship hunt. As we come to this round, it's Bell and Hamaguchi who are on top in the points, 127 points to Mok and Sawa. The two-time champion, Mok Weng's son, 125 points. And the winners of the opening round and the pole sitters here for this race and tomorrow's second 40-minute race, the second last race of the season, Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, 119 points. A little bit further back, Frank Yu. But as you can see from the aggression Richard Lyons is showing there in the number 97 Craft Bamboo Racing Aston Martin, they're looking to take away a strong points haul here this weekend from Shanghai and put Frank Yu back into the championship hunt as we come to the final race of the 2014 season at Macau, which of course is on the 14th to the 16th of November. So in 4 weeks' time, we'll be at Macau for the Grand Prix circuit. 112 lapper will constitute the final round of the championship. And if 2013 and previous seasons are anything to judge by, that will be one cracker of a race. But up front, Jean-Carl Verne, of course, won the Le Mans 24-hour race in the Porsche for Matmo Racing in 2013, ran in the Porsche during the World Endurance Championship in 2013, finishing third in that championship. enjoying his time with the Bentley, as is his teammate. We will see him a little bit later, gentleman driver by his own admission, Gilles Van Lay, but of course running a lot of racing in Europe this year, running the European Le Mans Series in a Porsche, and a Ferrari also in the French GT Championship. So he's had plenty of miles under his belt, and he'll be looking forward to his maiden run racing a Bentley Continental GT3. Of course, this is the maiden event for that car under Absolute Racing, who of course also run the very competitive Audi R8 team in the Asian region, and have been race winners already this year, Christopher Meade, and of course car owner Jeffrey Lee. So things are starting to spread out just a little now. Max Weiser in the local MB team Aston Martin Vantage V12 shared the car with Lucas Guerrero last time round. Kane Young was unfortunately unable to run in the car in the second race at Sepang due to business commitments here in China. The local driver is back in this weekend, as we say, qualifying 2 yesterday. During his 10-minute session, he put that car on P2 immediately behind Davide Rizzo, who is another local. Anthony Liu in the number 37 car, coming on screen now, the yellow and red Ferrari 458. Teammate in the silver car, just ahead still of Richard Lyons, 10 minutes into this race. Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu are also Shanghai locals. Shanghai, the largest, biggest city rather in China. Very good circuit, Hermann Tilke designed circuit, the third one we've been to this year during the 2014 GT Asia Series. Of course, the season started on a Tilke designed circuit in the South Korea International Circuit, and that event was won quite convincingly on debut by the BBT team of Liu and Rizzo. The second circuit, of course, that is a Tilke designed circuit is Sepang International Raceway in Malaysia, where of course we conducted both rounds, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, so both events. So 4 rounds of the championship in August and September. Richard Lyons back in this car. Stefan Mucker, of course, caught up with his involvement this weekend in the World Endurance Championship in Japan. As we see Roy Aguas continuing to circulate a little bit further in the back, in the pack rather. That's the number 8 GTM class Taiwan Top Speed Racing Ferrari 458 challenge car as Aguas is off the circuit. Whereabouts is that? That looks like the outside of the chicane. So that's turn 4. As he just got out into the gravel, got onto the power, spun the car around under a little bit of pressure there from Richard Lyons, probably keen as long as he could to keep the car in front of Lyons and protect a little bit longer Anthony Liu at the front of the field. Of course, Liu and Davide Rizzo are right in this championship hunt. Now we're talking about the points. It was Bell and Hamaguchi on 127, Mock and Sale 125, Rizzo and Liu 119. The 2014 GT Asia Series scores on the top 11 scores from 13 rounds. 13 for the final round of the championship in 2014 will be at Macau in 1 month's time. But of the events so far, if we drop the worst 2 point scoring rounds, or the worst 2 rounds rather, a DNF contributes to the score, so you can drop that round. On adjusted points, it's Mok Weng Sun, the 2-time GT Asia Series champion, that leads alongside Kita Sal with 117 points. Davide Rizzo and Anthony Liu, the South Korea winners, won the first 2 rounds of the championship, jumped to second in the championship, just 2 points behind, 115 points, and Bell and Hamaguchi dropped to third with 112. So there's everything to play for this weekend. 18 points for a win, 16 for second. We have 2 more races, and then of course we go to Macau for the final race of the season. So these top teams will be doing everything in their power, and of course we explained earlier that Hiroshi Hamaguchi had a dramatic accident coming out of turn 10 here on Thursday afternoon, the official practice session. Dying stages, sun starting to set, track conditions were pretty good, and just at this part of the circuit you can see they are approaching now. In fact, just in the background there is the part of the circuit where Hiroshi Hamaguchi spun, and that threw him very hard into the tyre barrier on the inside of the circuit. He hit the fence at 165 kilometres an hour, and the team admitted afterwards that he was able to get out of that MP412C McLaren and walk away from the car unaided, and they attribute the fact that he is here this weekend and still able to compete because of the safety capsule, of course the carbon fibre monocoque chassis that the MP412C is built around. The strength of that was what saved Hiroshi Hamaguchi from potentially worse injuries. He didn't get injuries essentially apart from a stiff neck and a stiff back, but he was able to get away from the car, and of course they got the second car from the AAI Restrada team. They own two MP412Cs, made some changes to the car on Thursday night. Were able to line up for qualifying. Unfortunately for Rob Bell, he blotted his copybook about the 7th minute of the opening qualifying session by making contact with another car and bending the left rear suspension on that car, so it was retired. Hamaguchi will start tomorrow's 40-minute race from the rear of the field as a result of that, and the important thing was Hiroshi was able to compete, and also that he was well enough to do so. The team are able to take their place on the grid because they are in this championship hunt together with those two cars on screen. Frank Yu's about 4 or 5 points back from the top 3 at this stage, as Rob Bell has a look inside Anthony Liu, who this year has been a real standout. The Chinese driver has been very impressive alongside Davide. It's very little separating. In fact, yesterday during qualifying, both ran their single 10-minute sessions, separated by a 10-minute break to allow the drivers and the teams to change what they needed to on the car, and swap drivers, change tyres if need be. And they were separated by just 6/100ths of a second at the close of the 2 qualifying sessions, which shows just how close they are, as Richard Lyons dives up the inside there into turn 14 to take the position away from Anthony Liu. And Anthony Liu won't be too concerned about that. He knows too that they have a stop coming in the not too distant future. We are 18 minutes into this race, so in fact the pit window has opened, and at any stage now over the next 10 minutes teams can start to pit and affect their compulsory pit stop. Minimum 75-second stop as a result of finishing in the top 3 of the last round of the championship. 3 of these cars will have an extended stop. In fact, the number 12 Richard Wee Matt Griffin car will be stopping for 83 seconds. It has an additional 8-second penalty for having won the last round of the championship. The number 9 car, Max Wise and Kane Young, will stop for an additional 4 seconds. And the number 97 car on screen, Frank Yu, and then with Stefan Mucker, now with Richard Lyons, will stop for an additional 2 seconds. So Anthony Liu knows that there will be an additional stop. So if he can keep within reach of Richard Lyons, he knows that he will hand over to Davide Rizzo, who was certainly on par and probably a little quicker than Frank Yu, will be able to regain that advantage. But the cars they'll be keeping an eye on too is this Bentley Continental that continues to lead at the front of the field. Richard Lyons going around the number 15 LKM Porsche GT3R as the race draws towards its midpoint. We're almost 20 minutes down in this race. Anthony Liu is still in position 3. Position 4, Max Weiser, is now starting to close in on his fellow Shanghai resident, Anthony Liu. And behind them, Dasheng Zheng is still doing a brilliant job in the ART Porsche, now under fire from Matt Griffin, and not too far behind Peter Sawa to dive through on the LKM Porsche into turn number 14. Of course, that car was to be shared by Earl Bamber, the reigning Carrera Cup Asia champion, but his commitments have kept him elsewhere this weekend, so he's unable to take his place in that car. But we should expect to see him at Macau in 1 month's time during the final event of the year in the Macau GT Cup, where there will be a mix of series regulars and invited drivers like Eduardo Mortara, the DTM driver, who of course has 6 victories at the very testing Macau circuit. You can see the damage on the front of Zheng's Porsche there, and that will be having a big impact. We noticed very dramatically early in this race how that car was understeering quite severely through some of the bigger, faster sweeping corners rather. the mid-speed corners is probably a better way to explain it, and that will be affecting his performance. They were very quick early in the weekend. Actually incurred a 50-kilo penalty after official practice by virtue of the fact that the car, it appears, has come from Europe as a former Farnbacher car with the wrong restrictor, or the wrong style of restrictor, right size, wrong style. So as a result of that, rather, words out, that car has gained an extra 50-kilo weight penalty, which has impacted its pace about half a second a lap, and that has brought it back into the clutches of the two Clearwater Racing Ferraris that are immediately behind. So 5 minutes left in this pit window. The drivers will be keen at some point to make their change. Of course, there's a maximum amount of time the pro drivers can run in these cars, which is why they have to be in and make their stop before the window is closed. But obviously, with the pace of the professional drivers versus the amateur drivers that own the car, as we see Kenyu Rata getting into the car. Of course, that is Takuma Aoki, the former 500cc motorcycle star who was badly injured in a testing accident many years ago in Japan. That ended his career and put him into a wheelchair, paraplegic. He's done some off-road racing over the years, and this year joined the Delango racing team. Delantha Malaganua, who runs that team, was a former MotoGP rider. Certainly wasn't MotoGP, but a 125cc Grand Prix rider many years ago. Knew the Aoki brothers and made contact when he was racing in Japan a couple of seasons ago, and spoke to Aoki and offered him the opportunity to drive in the team's Lamborghini Gallardo LP560. Max Weiser now in position number 3 by virtue of some of the leading cars stopping. Jean-Carl Vernet continues to lead, although Richard Lyons is starting to haul him in. They're both into the 48s, but the fastest car on circuit presently is Richard Lyons. And they'll be coming to the pit stops very, very soon. We're talking about the Pro-Am style of racing with the professional drivers like Vernet and Richard Lyons, of course. Matt Griffin's another. They will be handing across to the gentleman drivers or the amateur drivers, traditionally the car owners, during the stop. They will want to maximise the amount of time they spend in that car before their compulsory stop. The bulk of this field are 2 driver entries. You can run a single driver. There is an additional penalty for that. But there is 2 driver teams right across, well, across most of the entries rather, and they will have their minimum 75-second stop. In fact, every car that are leading through from the last round will stop for a minimum of 75 seconds. You can't come out any quicker. We've seen teams penalised for that in the past. It's clear as we see one of the other cars diving in. Was that Max Weiser further back diving into pit lane? That may well have been, or has Weiser come under fire now from... No, that's the Porsche. So Max Weiser has decided to pit the NB team Aston Martin Vantage V12 and hand across to Kane Young. Of course, those 2 drivers also compete in the Blancpain Super Trofeo Lamborghini Series, and will be here this weekend, in 1 week's time rather, to defend Max Weiser's title. He leads the championship points quite significantly. He was telling me on the weekend that he only needs 1 more point to claim back-to-back championships in that category. So they're well-versed with the circuit, well-versed with driving together, and clearly Weiser has decided that he wants to stop early, get Kane Young up to speed, and give him the opportunity to close out this race and try and get that car on the podium. As you see Matt Griffin having worked his way past Dashen Zhang to take the position away from the number 66 Porsche, and Keita Sawa will be very keen to try and achieve the same thing. A little bit strange seeing the number 3 Clearwater Racing Ferrari 458 that far back in the field, but did you notice what's coming up behind them? That's Christopher Mies. That's an incredible drive by the young German. He's managed to make a stop after that incident in the opening lap, get a tyre change and rejoin and start to haul the drivers at the tail end of the top field back in. There he is, just coming through turn number 13 there now. So he's managed to recover an awful lot of ground. Of course, qualified 4th yesterday, only 3/10 off pole. So they really have got that Absolute Racing Audi R8 up to speed. Now, here we see Jean-Carl Vernet coming into pit lane. Look at how much ground under brakes that Richard Lyons has made up. They have to be on the limiter, can't exceed the 60 km/h speed limit, They have to make very sure from the timing line at the start of the pit entry to the timing line at the close of the pit exit that they are no shorter than 75 seconds as Nasrat Mazayan pulls out in the Spirit of Race Ferrari 458. It was 2 seconds additional that must be completed for the number 97 car. That's the number 22 Spirit of Race Ferrari 458 Challenge. Has just had a spin there. KS Wang, it might be Yokomizo, who's been very quick in past rounds, the Super GT driver, driving with Samson Chan in the Ford GT. Very, very fast during his time in that car at Sepang. Just a replay. That's an unusual spin. Somebody of Yokomizo's calibre, you wouldn't expect to see that happen. There may have been an issue with the car as their teammate just pulls past. 15 minutes left in this race. The number 22 is continuing on. Can't quite tell from the helmet which of the two drivers is behind the car. He clearly has an issue. The pace is right off as he pulls off the racing line. Now, Gilles Vanelay, the gentleman driver from France, as we see the number 69 GTM class Porsches had a spin. A little bit further back, they've lost a lot of ground by the look of things. That's not a 2-second lead now that Vanelay has over Frank Yu. That's much greater. So it appears they've had somewhat of an issue with the Craft Bamboo Racing Aston that time round. I don't know what's going on there, but there's certainly a quite significant advantage now to the number 4 Bentley Continental GT3 with Vanelay at the wheel. Frank Yu now behind the wheel of the number 97 Craft Bamboo Aston Martin. He will be doing everything in his power to try and catch up. But look who's now in position too. It's Davide Rizzo. They stopped a little bit earlier than the race leaders, and Rizzo is on an absolute fly. The lights are flashing. He has that 458 Italia GT3 as Vanelay's trying to get around the LKM Gallardo FL2, and that has really slowed him up. He doesn't want to be too aggressive too early in the piece, but the car will be nice and warm. Verne will have brought it up to speed. This is the first event, essentially, for Vanelay in this car. He said, I've never driven the Bentley before. It feels fantastic. It's a brilliant gentleman driver's car. It does everything very, very precisely. And he said, I'm very comfortable behind the wheel. I've never driven on the Yokohama tyres. In fact, the entire Bentley team are recording data as much as humanly possible this weekend. Ken Gakita from Yokohama is assisting them with that process to ensure they get as much data as they can to be able to keep tuning this car on the Yokohama tyre, traditionally running on Pirellis elsewhere in the world. The Blancpain Endurance Series runs on that tyre, so this is data they'll be keen to gain. But he has been caught by leaps and bounds. In fact, it looked just in the background there as if Davide Rizzo was going to make an assault on the lead before the end of this lap and take that position away from Vanelay and the Bentley team. And look, he's drawn alongside coming down the front straight. There's a drag race into turn 1. The Ferrari seems to have the legs, but he's got the advantage down the straight, of course, but he's lost it coming into turn 1. Right-hander, a quick switch back round the double right-hander into the left-hander turn 3, and he's forced to stay behind the twin-turbo 4-litre V8 powered Bentley Continental GT3. Has another very aggressive Davide Rizzo, very keen to get in front of the Bentley and take that advantage to the flag. 2 wins already so far after 10 this year. He'll be looking for some more. This is the 15 LKM Porsche again being taken for position. Having another look up the inside, the 4.5 litre V8, normally aspirated Ferrari, mid-mounted engine versus lights flashing, 4 litre V8 powered twin turbo Bentley Continental. It does look like a big, heavier vehicle. Of course, physically in size, it's longer and wider, but weight-wise, very similar to the racing weight of the Ferrari 458. Very wide there by Vanelay. Davide Rizzo will be taking some level of hope out of that. He'll be wondering whether it's the pressure he's applying or whether, in fact, the tyres may have been forced to work a little bit harder under Jean-Carl Verne. As looks like positions taken away into turn 14. Have they avoided contact? Yes, it looks that way. And Rizzo's closed the door. Now, he's at the front. There's 11.5 minutes of this race remaining. So it's Davide Rizzo, title contender, leading in the number 37 BBT Ferrari. Second, Gilles Vanillay in the number 4 Bentley Continental GT3, operated by Absolute Racing. Third position is Frank Yu in the Craft Bamboo Aston Martin Vantage V12. A little bit further back behind Yu was a very deep line there by Vanillay coming through turns 2-3. Peter Sara and Mock Weng Sun. Mock now at the wheel, the two-time champion, the winningest driver in the history of the GT Asia Series since 2010. Weng has won 19 races. The next greatest winner of GT Asia Series is Frank Yu, who's currently in position number 3 with 6 wins. So certainly the Clearwater Racing team know how to win races, and Mock Weng Sun still, for about the 5th season in a row, is coming towards the tail end of the championship, well in a position to take the title and may well gain his 3rd championship this year. So a little work to do, a couple of Ferraris to get around. Of course, Frank Yu in the Aston Martin is right in this hunt, and so too Mock's teammates in Clearwater Racing McLaren MP412C. The team are probably unable to repair that car ahead of the final in Macau, so may well be running again the AAI car, which that team so graciously offered them this weekend. See a little bit further back, that is Mock, now leading Chow Lee in the number 66 car. Lee is the car owner of the Martini liveried Porsche GT3R, and behind them that appears in fact to be the Richard Wee in the car that won the most recent round of the championship at Sepang in September. Richie Wee at that stage driving the number 12 Clearwater Racing Ferrari 458, chrome and blue as opposed to chrome and day-glow orange, with the number 3 Mock Weng Sun Peter Sara Ferrari. He was driving that car last time round when they won that particular round of the championship with Alessandro Guidi, the Italian. So he was flown in for one event, was unable to make it here this weekend, and Matt Griffin, who's a favourite of the Clearwater Racing team, the Irishman, joining the team again alongside Richie Wee, and they've been quite competitive this weekend. So Wee's still back in the mix. He's a little bit further back in the field, about 6th position now, and Hiroshi Hamaguchi's starting to work his way through the field too, and he's catching up onto the tail of the number 12 Clearwater Ferrari. A little bit further back, you should see them before too much longer. There's Frank Yu. He's now about 10 seconds back from Vanillay, running consistently, similar pace to the Bentley last time round. They're into the 39s, the mid to high 39s. So Yu's aware that he could gain some serious championship points and put himself back into the hunt in this event. And doing everything he can in the Clearwater Racing, in the Craft Bamboo Racing Aston Martin Vantage. Lights still flashing with Vanillay as he comes down to turn 14. David Rizzo looks like he's fairly comfortable so far in this race. Blue flag being waved to, that would be Takuma Aoki in the rather it should be Ken Urata. We saw him step in. One of the first drivers to stop was Aoki, stepped out, dropped Ken Urata into the car. So it'll be Ken behind the wheel. They won 2 of the races at Sepang and have, as a result, taken some success ballast for this weekend, and admitted earlier in the weekend that they were a little bit slower than they had been at previous rounds, are carrying a little bit more weight. And they did also explain that when they make the change by virtue of being a paraplegic, hand controllers for Takuma Aoki, it takes an additional 12 seconds over their minimum pit stop time to make the change. Ken Urata has to essentially lift his Japanese teammate out of the car, put him in the wheelchair, then climb in the car himself. They make a steering wheel change, and that takes an additional 12 seconds. They spent a lot of time during Thursday and Friday practicing their driver changes, and they said they got it down to almost level with the 75-second minimum pit stop time, stationary for about 40 seconds, and that has made a big difference on their performance. And currently they're holding down about position 4 in this race in the GTM class with 6.5 minutes remaining. So it's still Liu up front, Rizzo rather. He's taken over from Anthony Liu. Anthony Liu, the Chinese driver, put in a brilliant opening stint to put them in a position where Rizzo was able to challenge Gilles Vanillé on the opening lap that Vanillé was in the car. Rizzo was up to speed by that stage, and he got the number 37 car lights flashing on screen. Red and yellow Ferrari 458, prepared by the Spirit of Race team, AF Corsa, backed. The team down there very, very successful. Of course, ran Passan Lathuris, the tyre driver, last year for 2 rounds of the 2013 GT Asia Series, and won both those races. Just recently they were at Road America with a number of drivers from the GT Asia field, including Rob Bell and Matt Griffin. Just a week ago, with Lathuris running him there, flew back to Australia to run the 37 and 38 Ferraris. The team cars, we saw Roy Glass, unfortunately, off the circuit. They've retired that car now. In the early stages, under pressure from Richard Lyons. It's unusual for the Italian. Very, very quick at Sepang, and nothing seemed to rattle him, so something wasn't quite right, obviously, earlier in this race, and the Glass was unable to make the compulsory stop and hand over to car owner Nasrat Muzayan. Muzayan will start tomorrow, second 40-minute race, as we see Vanillé continuing to press on behind Davide Rizzo in position number 2. Frank Hughes gaining a little bit of ground. He's about 8 seconds now behind the Bentley Continental. Beautiful car, built by M Sport, of course responsible for the Ford World Rally Championship outfit, or the Ford World Rally Championship Solid. Focuses. Those Fiestas, rather, that have been running in the most recent seasons. Of course, they built this car and have been providing them around the world. It's just arrived in Australia. This is the first one in Asia. There's more coming into the Asian market over the next couple of months. So we should see a number of those throughout the course of the next 6 to 12 months. Of course, a 2-time winner of the Blancpain Championship, the Blancpain Series this year in Bentley Continental. So a very competitive car. Vanillé continuing to circulate. You can see the GTM Audi immediately behind him, followed by Ken Urata, who's trying to make up position on, that looks like it was the number 26, Johnson Huang, Absolute Racing Audi, the black and red car, a little bit further back there from Vanillé, as a little bit of pressure comes onto the car that is essentially, well, it was coming to this round, leading the GTM class points, the number 88 Ferrari 458 of Thomas Fjordbach. And Fjordbach just closed the door on the race-leading Ferrari and hung him out to dry through turns 2 and 3. This is not an inspired move, although Fjordbach is also in his own title race. He's leading the points and doing everything he can to try and catch the Jackie Young Matt Solomon, number 77, Tiger Racing Audi R8, which is leading this class, and currently Fjordbach's reining him in by about 4.5 seconds a lap, but that's a big delay to Rizzo here. That's something that you shouldn't be doing to the race leader, and clearly Rizzo's not at all happy with it, waving out the window and giving the young Dane a piece of his mind. It clearly wasn't something that he enjoyed, but he's got through, and that's one thing that these drivers have to be aware of. We've seen it on a number of occasions during the 2014 season, where the GTM cars have been caught by the much faster GT3 cars, and something like 4.5, 5 seconds, up to 6 seconds a lap difference in outright speed or outright performance across a lap. And the GT3 drivers sometimes have been a little frustrated in getting past the GTM drivers, who of course are having their own race. Very difficult part of the circuit, the 1, 2, 3, 4, or turns 1, 2, 3, 4 complex, and Fjordbach again was focusing on the job he has at hand. Lights flashing for Gilles Vanillé, who must have had an issue, because last time round he's done just on a 2-minute lap. He's dropped about 12 seconds the last lap round. Doesn't appear to be any contact. He must have had a spin somewhere that we haven't seen, because now Frank Hughes closed right up behind him. The pair of them are coming up behind Ken Urata, who again is in this battle. He's just working his way into the top 3 in this race in the GTM class. You can see Johnson Huang is immediately in front of him in the Absolute Racing Audi. And Urata, a very experienced driver in Japan, just moves across and allows Vanillé to take that position away. Does the same thing for Frank Hughes, gives him racing room. It's delayed him a little in his battle to get onto the podium in the GTM class and keep Takuma Aoki in the title battle. He's battling Fjordbach, Fjordbach's teammate George Chu, and also Jackie Young, the 2012 GTM class champion who this weekend has employed the services of young Matt Solomon, Formula Masters China Series race winner this year and well and truly in the title hunt. That championship will be closed out here at Shanghai International next weekend. But during the opening stanza of this race, Solomon was lightning fast. In fact, pulled alongside the McLaren into turn one, the Rob Bell and Hiroshi Yamaguchi championship leading McLaren. Big speed differential, but still off the start managed to do a good run and handed the car to Jackie Young with about a 16-second lead over at that stage. It was Rio Fukuda in the number 18. Go back a step, in the number 18 Taiwan Top Speed Racing Ferrari 458 Challenge. Now 30 seconds left in this race. The number 37 BBT Ferrari 458 of Davide Rizzo comes through turn 14. At this stage he is going to make the line before the race is declared at the 40-minute mark. He is in fact 14 seconds, 13 seconds. He will cross the line with a handful of seconds to spare, and they will go around one more time. You can see Thomas Fjordbach behind is really flying. He's very, very close now to the outright pace of Matt Solomon that Solomon set during the early part of this race. Jackie Young circulating about 4.5 seconds off the pace of Fjordbach, who's really continuing to push hard. There's about 16 seconds now on this final lap that he needs to make up on Tiger Jackie. I don't think he's going to do that, not at 4.5 seconds a lap. But at the front and looking comfortable, it's Davide Rizzo, local-based driver with Anthony Liu, winners of rounds 1 and 2 at Korea International Circuit. Back when the season started on the 16th to the 18th of May, they left as the championship points leaders. They've been very consistent since. In fact, they've been on the podium at almost every event this year, not at every round. There's 2 rounds at every event. This is the 6th event on the 2014 program, rounds 11 and 12, as Frank Yu continues to sit behind Gilles Vanelay. Now, interestingly, in the points, Vanelay does not score championship points. So that will be on Frank Yu's mind. Does he need to pass him for position? No. But in fact, strategy may be well playing into Frank Yu's mind. If he doesn't finish second, he will incur a 2-second penalty during the compulsory pit stop tomorrow. If he finishes second, he'll incur a 4-second penalty. Now, 2 seconds in pit lane could be the difference between finishing second and third, or first and second. So that's probably playing through Frank Yu's mind. Very cunning driver, works his way through the race as it plays out. I'm getting off the mark because Davide Rizzo is coming to the line and he's going to take the win. That's a great result for the BBT team, and that really does assist the championship battle that has gone on. Frank Yu's clearly decided, as we see a couple of cars running very wide through turn 16 onto the line, and in fact that looks like Ken Urata's going to take position away. Is he from Craig Liu? Oh, that's going to be very close. In fact, that might be Rio Fukuda who's behind the wheel of that car now, so he may have taken that position away. So Frank Yu's managed to hold on to P3. It's very likely that he has had that scenario go through his mind, and he's elected to hang on to position number 3. Great debut by Vanelay and Jean-Carl Vernet and the Absolute Racing Bentley Continental team to debut position number 2 in their maiden race in the series. There's Vernet, there's Vanelay. So we see Craig Liu, we see Anthony Liu rather, and Davide Rizzo win this race. And of course the Craft Bamboo Racing team of Richard Lyons on the left and Frank Yu, position number 3. So a very good result for them this time round. Great drive by Vernet and Vanelay. And of course for Davide Rizzo on the left of screen there, very happy with his trophy. Anthony Liu, local driver, that's really put them right back into this championship hunt. It'll be great to see what they can do tomorrow when they start from pole position for round 12 of the GT Asia Series. Quick recap, you see the start controlled by Anthony Liu. He's got a good run, but keep your eye on that number 4 Bentley, lights ablaze, a little bit further back, cuts left, cuts right, cuts back to the middle. He's in position 5 into the turn 1. Look where he is by turn 3, he's leading. Richard Lyons and Christopher Mies forced wide. Then there was contact between Zeng and Christopher Mies. That put the Audi into pit lane for a quick tyre change. Damage on the right rear of the Jeffrey Lee and Christopher Mies car. And then Roy Aguas, holding position number 3 ahead of Richard Lyons, had a spin at turn 4, and that dropped him a little bit further down the order and ultimately out of the race. Now turn number 2, the number 69 GTM class Porsche's out, and then it was an attack after the compulsory pit stop by Davide Rizzo on Gilles Vanelay. He went through to record a comfortable win, and for them that is round 11 of the championship.